So quick little thing before Malcolm Brogdon, I've actually started doing the podcast again. I've done like 3 recently. I was answering a lot of questions from Twitter. I talked about Captain Marvel in one of them, so that's in the description. Malcolm Brogdon is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks for the Bucks. I think this is a decent dent into what Milwaukee likes to do because Brogdon fits in so well with everything they've got going on, really, because he could have the ball in his hands and run screens with Lopez or Mirotic or Giannis. And he can occasionally attack switches himself, and he's also a pretty good off-ball guy of like cutting to the rim and all that. But of course, with Brogdon, you're also getting that floor spacing, and I mentioned playing off the ball a moment ago. I mean, Brogdon's a pretty smart offensive player who is just so good at moving within that Bucks system, I guess. And you could suggest that he's the guy who's kind of embraced it the most, because I feel like Giannis, he was going to be amazing no matter what. Middleton, for all of the Coach Bud stuff that has been thrown in here, he is still getting those occasional ISOs and post-ups. He shoots 14 times a game. He's a pretty similar dude. I think Bledsoe is more motivated, but in terms of play style and really buying in, you could say that Brogdon has been kind of the unsung hero of this team, because imagine if you replaced Brogdon with a guy who wanted the ball a little too much. You know, he wanted the ball as much as Bledsoe or Middleton, or he wanted to take as many shots as those guys, or all that, but he's been very content with fitting in, and as a result of fitting in, he's been extremely efficient, and I don't think they have a guy on this roster who can replace what he does, because, you know, if Tony Snell is the guy entering the starting lineup, he's a spot shooter. Maybe Bledsoe just gets more reps, more pick and rolls and all that. Bledsoe is maybe still a better player than Brogdon, but there's certain things Brogdon does off the ball and being content with not shooting as much that Bledsoe doesn't really give you. You know, with Bledsoe, it's like, if it's a playoff series and he hasn't touched the ball for a couple minutes, I could picture him having problems with that, whereas Brogdon is totally fine with that. If we're talking about defensive versatility, I mean, Brogdon, you know, maybe Tony Snell could have you being okay there. I mean, Snell is a serviceable to potentially even a pretty decent above average defender at times, so there's that. And I expect this team's defense to still be pretty good, but I guess the best thing we can do is look at potential playoff scenarios, because I think in the regular season, this is not going to hurt them that much. So let's say if the Bucks, as of right now, the way the seeding is set, they would play, if we assume the Celtics beat the Pacers in round 1, then they would play Boston, of course. And maybe Brogdon can go for that series. Maybe he can play, but he's not really himself. That's going to give the Celtics one less guy to really worry about, because part of the reason why the Bucks are so damn good is because of how versatile they are, right? Where you'll say, all right, you know, maybe we can have a plan for Bledsoe where we can trap him or something. And with Brogdon out there, that was tough to do because the Bucks could just put as many guys who can knock down shots and move off the dribble so well. Whereas if Tony Snell is in there now, you're a little more content with trapping Bledsoe or trapping Middleton or trapping Giannis, and then leaving Tony Snell open and daring him to shoot threes with a guy closing out on him. And if the guy closing out on him is Jaylen Brown, for example, who's very athletic, then he might be able to catch up to Snell, and at that point, Tony Snell's probably just going to pick up his dribble and keep the ball moving, whereas Brogdon would probably still be able to attack off the bounce. Now, if Mirotic is the guy entering, then the shooting still holds up, but then the defense has a little extra thing that it can be attacked with, right? Because Brogdon, yeah, I mean, he's 6'4", whatever he is, but he's a strong dude. He is fundamentally sound on defense, and he just kind of finds a way. And yeah, Mirotic, I don't think he's an awful defender, but he's certainly a guy you can attack. So I don't know. There's some sort of trade-off the Bucks are going to be forced to make without Brogdon being here now. You know, if we look at the Celtics once again, Mirotic is out there. I mean, I know it sounds pretty simple. They would attack Mirotic. Kyrie would try to get switched onto him. They would have Mirotic moving off the ball. And Sure, the Bucks could have counters for these sorts of things, whether that's trying to hide Mirotic on like the one dude the Celtics wouldn't want really involved in the offense like that, but even then, pretty much every Celtic can either shoot or dribble. For all the problems they've had, it is still a pretty talented roster. So it's going to be tough to just put Mirotic in the corner against them and call it a day. If we move on to, let's say they can still win that series, I mean, they're still a really good team, so I'm not going to be shocked if they still get to the West Finals and the NBA Finals. But then after that, they may be looking at the Raptors and the Conference Finals, and it's a similar thing with attacking Mirotic or forcing Snell to do a little bit more on offense than he's comfortable with. But I shouldn't just mention Tony Snell as the other wing. I mean, I think it's a safe bet that Mirotic will play a little bit more after this, but it could be Pat Connaughton, it could be Ilyasova. There are definitely other guys on this roster who can step in. Connaughton's got an ankle thing going on, so who knows with him, but there's also Sterling Brown, who apparently has a wrist injury, but at times he's looked like an actual NBA player, so they're going to have other options, but you have to think who gives them the best balance of defense and shooting. It's probably Tony Snell with all these extra wings. Yeah, I mean, I could stretch this out to 10 minutes, but I don't really have more to say about it than just this is an extra hurdle that the Bucks are going to have to try to get over, and it definitely makes them a little weaker. Now, could this be the difference between them losing a tough playoff series and winning it? Honestly, I could kind of picture that. I mean, what if Tony Snell is forced to play and he can't make a three? Because he's had parts of his career where he's been kind of freaked out on offense, or Mirotic kind of gets played off the floor defensively. I mean, I know they're always going to have the Giannis at center lineups in their back pocket, but those don't even look as scary without Brogdon. So, yeah, hopefully for the Bucks' sake, he can be back and he can still be that guy, because if not, again, I'm not going to be shocked if they still go all the way, but maybe we're going to realize in some tough round 2 series, oh crap, Malcolm Brogdon is actually very important to this team. So we'll see what happens. And one more time, podcast, actually doing it again, description, all that stuff.